This was the mother character, which we've got her, pretty much wrapped up already. And we thought that was the last character, but it was not. I forgot about this little guy here, and so he's got a big role in our film. Let me minimize this. Hey, it's Ron. What's going on, Ron? Wow, long time no see. It's been a long time. All right. So, yeah, Ron, we're going to work on our character tonight. It's pretty simple to make this guy. He's got a round body. He's got round head. Pretty simple. Let me actually move all this aside. So, hey, Wee Beast. What's going on? So hopefully you guys are having a good week. It's been pretty hot here. It's been, I think, about almost 95 degrees or so where I live recently. So very, very hot and muggy and humid. And not so nice for Clay. Actually, luckily we have air conditioning, because if not, I think all our characters probably would have melted. So Ron, you should tell us what you've been up to. It's been a long time. I guess you worked on, I know you worked on some toy projects. Yeah, well that's good. That is really good. Being busy is a good thing, especially when you're creative. Because jobs are hard to come by, especially good paying ones. Let's see here. I wonder if I have any more cardboard in here someplace. Could use this. I'm out of shelves. I've used all my shelves in my makeshift box here. Yep, no more cardboard. Okay. Well, I could put them on here. That's alright. I'd rather put them on a fresh piece, but I can move this stuff around first. Ron says, I'm old enough to remember not having air conditioning. Yeah, it's a modern miracle, isn't it? I mean, it's like, for clay animators, I mean, it is a true miracle, because, well, even with air conditioning, it's kind of tough. Like, I know in John Lemon Films we had air conditioning in the shack that they built for us to animate out of, and the place was really small that I worked in. It was like a trailer, and they had air conditioning in one room that kind of cooled down the whole place, but they had a wall or a partition in the center with the door, and so you would keep it closed to keep one room nice and isolated and cold, and the animation room was in the back. So if you wanted to make sure that nothing melted in the back room, you had to open up the middle door and make sure that your lights were off, because it would get hot fast. And they had like a fan in there too, an exhaust fan, but it still got pretty hot, with all the lights. So anyways, now in terms of this character that I'm working on here, oh, you're working for John Lemon right now? That's awesome. So are you working out of, I guess that Mike Rosinski has a garage in North Carolina that he works out of, but you're probably doing it, remotely with them? They're both a bunch of nice guys. Mike is pretty cool, and John used to be a preacher, I believe. Excuse me. So let's see here now. Put some eyeballs. Oh, okay. That's cool. So working from home for John Lemon Films. Can you divulge any details? Is it, I know that they've got a, Isn't that weird that you can see my hands through the bottom of the screen here where the words were scrolling? I need to put a background behind that, don't I? It's kind of messed up. Let's do this. There we go. But that's awesome that they're still doing stuff, because I mean I haven't really seen any new stuff from them in years and years. I know they had a thing where they were sort of offering like these little units of education or something, like I don't know if it's like portable stuff to set up in museums and places to teach people stop motion, where they had software, and I never really found out all the details of that, but it seemed like they were doing, more community type stuff for stop motion as opposed to TV commercials and that kind of thing. They were also doing a lot of flash animations for the internet. I think they tried to venture into that in order to, get by when things got slow with regular stop motion. Because at the time, like in the early 2000s, flash animation was so majorly big. They had Newgrounds.com, and I think John Kay from Spumco was working with that Icebox company, the Icebox.com, trying to make flash animations and stuff, and they would put advertisements in there and try and sell advertising in their online cartoons, sort of like what you would do with TV, where you have an ad that runs and somebody pays into it and whatnot. And they would try to make the advertising interactive, which was pretty cool as well. So Ron says, a company commissioned thank you video shorts for their departments in stop motion. I got to write and design the whole project. Wow, that's awesome. That was really cool, Ron. Congratulations. Yeah, like I say, they were really a bunch of nice guys. I mean, they let me work there. That was my first stop motion company that I worked for, and they took me under their wings, so to speak, for many months. Trusted me to actually do some animation as well. That was the first company I did animation for. So, I owe those guys, some thanks for that, for sure. So Ron says, I'm shooting a top-down animation of props and items that symbolize each department. Oh, okay. So, I might try something new with this boy puppet here. I think I'm going to try something new. So I'm going to sculpt a second head here. Roughly the same size. I'm really glad that she got that job. I mean, that sounds really fun. I mean, you get to have sort of creative control, and can't complain about that. I know I saw Alba Garcia mentioned some project to me on Facebook that she got invited to work on for the Henson Company. Jim Henson's oh. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean John treats everybody pretty nicely. I mean, he's a very fair guy, Fortunately, there's a lot of bad people out there too. They'll take advantage of you, but that's good to know. So, where's my oil at here? Gonna need to make a fresh batch of paper towels with oil. I used this to smooth out some clay that was really dark for one of my sculptures, full-size heads that I'm working on. And so the dark clay that's in here, you can see in the paper towel. I don't want that to get on these characters. I'm gonna clean out my jar, put some fresh oil and paper towels in there, nice and clean. But Alba Garcia, she wrote to me asking to come on the show and talk about some sort of puppet project, and I saw some videos that she put out. It seemed like she was doing some cool stuff with like hand puppets and things. Maybe she decided or changed her mind because our show is only it's for stop motion, but I think she's gotten some exciting projects going on. And I think pretty much everybody's been fairly busy, as far as I could tell, in the creative world. And most of my friends that are creative, like Joy Stamp, I know he got into those toy figures. I think they're called Stickbots or whatever. Roblox or Stickbots? Man, I can never remember. But they were hiring for their YouTube channel. So I got him in contact with that company, and they actually hired him. And I think they had a little bit of a rough start, but they worked it all out, And once they did that, I haven't really seen much from him. I think he's been busy working on that stuff. So trying to think who else has been working out there. And let's see here. I know Tom Brierton is working on. He is working on a DVD for making armatures, which is pretty nice. Actually, machined armatures. Not like wire or some kind of hybrid or something like that. Strictly speaking, ball and socket type armatures. Off here. So when that DVD comes out, I'm hoping to offer that on our site. I told them, hey, I'd love to be an outlet for that video because it's really exciting to have you share that knowledge out there. Let's see here. So go to this. Okay. So yeah, it's just really cool that everybody's been busy with projects and okay, so you got kind of swamped run with you had a dry spell and then everybody wanted you at once, huh? Yep, that happens. I mean, it's really tough, like, negotiating stuff with people. Everybody has their own wants and needs and budgets, like if you want to do something like a commercial or something like that. One particular guy, he wrote to me, he wanted to have a puppet made, and I'm backlogged for about 6 months with sculpting work. And I'm like, well, I would love to make it, love to make you a stop motion puppet. And he was a student on a budget, and those are sometimes, it's I know a lot of people will work and they'll say, well, it's for the money and all that kind of stuff. and you need to get money to survive. But there's always, people that are younger than you that are starting out that you want to sort of help out. And this one kid was in college, and he's like, well, I got this project. And I was like, well, I can do it, but it might be in 6 months before I can get around to it. And I never heard back. So I'm pretty sure he's decided that he doesn't want to wait 6 months, And of course, with school, you have a deadline, and you say yes to everything, Ron. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I do as well. But the only time that I don't say yes to everything is if if there's anything unfair going on, a lot of people who want to charge you money, and they want to offer you very little, or they expect they have a super strict deadline or something, and you're like, well, if you want to have something done in 1 week that normally takes 4 weeks, there has to be a price increase there, because you have to work a lot of hours. So if people ask me to rush projects, I definitely charge more, so. And then, of course, you got to deliver. You really have to make sure that you're getting the job done on time as well. I think last Christmas time was, Christmas Eve or 2 days before Christmas, I had to ship out a couple of sculptures, and I sometimes you get a project going, and people want to rush it, and my fear is always, if you rush a project, that the quality won't come out as nice. You don't want to have a project where you rush and the reputation of your abilities and skills is tarnished because the end product does look rushed. You don't want it to look rushed. You want it to look polished and nice. And so that's definitely one of those things where you're like, okay, what is the best thing to do? Should you take a job that's rushed, or for more money, which might end up looking a little bit rough, or not? Okay, now for this kid's face, I am going to try something experimental here. So we know that this kid has to have different expressions, and his face is really simple, as you can see. So I'm going to try something with. I'm going to make a layer system in Photoshop for this kid, and I'm going to sculpt expressions on some flat clay, and then cut them out in Photoshop and stick them on these heads. That's going to be what I do here. So I'm going to make a big flat piece, and these mouths will be essentially replacements. So Ron, I don't know if you've seen some of my former videos that I've been working on here with this project, but I'm using a program called Moho. I think it's Moho 12. Let me look real quick. Look on my PC. It is. Where is it? Well, anyway. Moho is the name of it. I'm not sure what number it's up to now. I don't remember the details. Oh. Oh, okay. Oh, you gotta turn somebody down today? You didn't remember? Well, don't forget. Or maybe you could try to get that done, another time or something. You can maybe make an offer, right? But I'm using this program called Moho, it's great for this kind of style of animation where you're using flat puppets like this. So if you take photos of all of these parts, what you do is you layer them in Photoshop as layers. So, the body will be on a layer, the arms will be a layer, the head, the hair, whatever you want to move separately. Actually, the head and hair would be together because I don't want those to be sliding around each other. But the lips, all this kind of stuff, separate layers. And then in Moho, what you do to do the lip sync or make expression changes is to remove, or not remove, but make visible and hide layers within the program. And so let's say I have the like a surprised face expression. You're able to reveal that particular layer and then hide the rest. And then if you want another expression, you hide the surprise expression, and maybe have a smile expression that shows up. So that's how that works. And Moho allows you to add motion blur. So if you don't have, like me, I don't have Revision Effects motion blur, and I don't have After Effects. I mean, I do, but I've got this ancient version. And I could pirate it, but I'd rather, own a copy or something. But their monthly rental system that they're using, to me, is just not worth it, So anyways, so Moho is pretty cool, and you can animate stuff like this using keyframes, and it's mainly designed for 2D animators, I think, to use like scans of your characters, and then you use the program to do like line art, like vector art type stuff. Yeah, yep, Moho. So I'm gonna try that program for this project. The main reason I like it is because it's a time saver, for this style specifically. Like I said, 2D animation or 2.5D clay animation, it's perfect for that. You can't really do regular stop motion in it. I mean, I suppose you could. You could probably like import frames into there or something like that. But yeah, that's not quite. I wouldn't want to use that and over something like Dragon Frame or Stop Motion Pro or something, because it's not designed specifically for that. But the motion blur is a really cool plus, and keyframes and all that. That to me is what I thought. Oh, I could save time doing that and maybe get a better looking final version of my animation, maybe smoother, faster to create, and so forth. Than if I went the traditional route, because clay on glass, one of the things about that is that you have to put your, and I actually built the rig already for this, but you have to put your hands under the glass layers, and you're always cleaning the glass, and it's just like I'm going to have to photograph this on the glass, but you get to really tweak everything in Photoshop really well. And the other thing that's cool about it is I can use Photoshop to squash and stretch some of these as well. I can squash and stretch the faces if I have to, or I can also, here's another thing. So if you guys recall, I've made these really super small kids, right? So here's you can see the size of my finger, So if I want to make these characters blink, it's very hard to work on something that tiny on a clay on glass table setup. So I can add blinks as layers in Photoshop. So I could take some really high quality stills with my DSLR, and essentially I can have things there's things I can do in Moho that I can't do physically. So that's why I like it, and that's why I want to give it a shot, see what I can get out of that program. So here you can see I'm just going to make these various mouth shapes, little smiles, a little surprised look here, and maybe a frown or something. Sad face. And I will make sure that as close as much as possible when I use Photoshop and I cut these out to stick on here, that the lighting is exactly the same, that kind of thing. And I'm going to see how it works out. But this little kid will be small in the frame of the project, because he's a little kid, right? So in comparison, here's his mother. So any sort of replacement faces that I use, even if it doesn't work out perfectly, that's okay because it's so small. So the main thing is will it read well to the audience, his expressions, so if not, I might have to resort to sculpting and making a mold of these heads and all that kind of thing. We'll see how this works. Sometimes you gotta experiment to find out how well things work, Yeah, it seems really cool, Ron. And there's the demonstration file that they have with Moho has a built-in sort of clown glass style alligator that walks into the frame and then like stops and then walks back out or something, And you can play with it, and it's almost, there's tutorials on how to use it. It's super easy to use. And yeah, I did see Solo because I think I mentioned last week my nephew had a birthday and he wanted to celebrate by seeing the film, and we went to the theaters. I thought it was okay. It wasn't horrible, but I didn't find it to be the greatest film. It's kind of like, okay, it's not bad. I think Ron Howard is a really experienced director, and I think he did a great job. I don't think he's the same as like Irvin Kershner. And the story was not too horrible. The story was better than The Last Jedi, I thought. Don't really know where I'm going with this particular facial expression, but I'll try to. I don't know how it's gonna look. It's my little experimental expression, I guess. Put the light over here so you guys can see better, hopefully. So Ron says, I loved Solo. I'd like to see it again before it leaves theaters. Yeah, it's a film that I wouldn't mind seeing again. Like if you asked me, do I want to see the Last Jedi film again when it came out? The answer is no. I didn't have any sort of desire to go back and see it one more time or anything like that. It was more like, I don't know. I was disappointed. But here's the crazy thing. Star Wars fans are generally really cool people, but they've politicized these films lately to a degree where people are starting to attack the actors and actresses on the internet. So I don't remember the name of that Asian girl that played. She was like Finn's lover, or romantic partner. If they were even that, I guess he found out that she was into him when she died at the end or whatever. But anyways, so she's Asian and Finn, I guess he's black, so they were thinking that Disney was being overly politically correct or something, so they trolled her so much that she quit her social media. And I think Daisy Ridley also had to quit her social media because people were so ruthless about her, as if like they have anything to do with writing the script and all that. They're just following the instructions that the director gives them. And the director is following whoever writes the story. Like maybe he's got a part in it, but it's like just people on the internet are just so cruel. It's like, okay, you don't like the film, but that's all right. Just leave people, leave people alone. Um, so yeah, it's a kind of a weird thing. I don't really understand why it has to be that way. It's just a weird thing that as time goes on, people seem to be more hostile towards each other, and yeah, I don't know. Rose, that's it. Yeah, Rose. I don't know. Trying to think if there's any movies that I really enjoyed a lot as of late. Because, I don't really go to the movies as much as I used to. When we do go to the theaters, it's to see kids' films because of my son. And, like, we've seen Moana and all the Ice Age movies and all the Disney films, all the Pixar films. See. I wonder if this kid should have chubby cheeks, I should probably sculpt some chubby cheeks on this kid. Well, yeah, I guess that's okay. This will look pretty good. Maybe an open mouth here. Let's have an open mouth. Go put a tongue in there, maybe a big smile. Should be interesting to see how this works. So if you guys are wondering when will I start animating, that's a question that came up last week a lot. Yeah. You think you're mentally ill, Ron? I think we're all mentally ill to a degree if we're an artist. So when will I start animating is the question. And so this character is, as far as I can tell, the last character I need to make for this film. So the characters will be done, and a lot of the sets are already done. Those were made before I started to make this as part of my live show. So that's going back, close to 6 months, a year ago or something like that. So I've got some of the sets done, but some of the sets that need to be created are the sets that are, let me see here. So I've got one where there's the dead tree that this character, the other mother character walks up to. So there's a dead tree, and then she has to go over to like the land of plenty, where everything is green and lush. And so they had that large tree with all the apples, and that's where all the other characters are hanging around and celebrating and eating their apples and enjoying life, while the other side is poor and destitute. So I need to make. Actually, let me see here. So I need to make that tree, and I need to make like branches and stuff. I also need to make some props as well. There's going to be props. There's going to be, let's see, there's like a tombstone. There's some pitchforks and things like that. It's going to be obviously lots of apples. So I had to make that, and I'll probably make it, that will be probably after this, next week. We're going to check out anybody who submits to the 5-week challenges, the robot challenge. So we'll check that out. And then if nobody does, we will jump right into sculpting our set, and that's going to be fun. So I'll have to make up some green clay for the tree. And So I think I'll probably make it on a piece of plexiglass, something nice and rigid that I could slide around, because, and also to see through, because we'll probably use green screen or blue screen behind it. I'm not really sure. I gotta really think it through before I just jump in, I guess. Let's see here. So got kid smiling. Let's paint the inside of his mouth black. Why some artists are crazy? That's just what makes us artists. You have to be somewhat crazy to be an artist. That's the belief. Oh, I can use this. Most artists do not like rules. That's the first thing. Psychologically, if you know an artist, they don't like rules. Because if they were into rules, they could not be a completely free person to think outside, think in ways that are differently than it's like a poet. A poet isn't just reading words, they're coming up with words from an artistic place in their mind, and that sort of transcends rules. That sort of goes around. It's kind of hard to explain. But I knew psychologically that's how most are. And most are... I know there are exceptions. I think Ron's an exception, but most artists lean to be liberal politically. Most artists have usually mental sensitivities that are dialed up a lot higher than most other people as well. This is just stuff that when you work with others, you'll find that to be true. One of the reasons why artists are able to see things so well and out of, how can I put this, like if you look at a cloud in the sky and you're able to see shapes, imagine that if you're not an artist, you'll be able to see things in the clouds. But if you are an artist, you're able to mentally see all the molecules. It's like on a completely different level that artists can imagine things. That's what makes artists artists. They can envision things in their mind a lot better. But it also makes them able to think of things like conspiracies. Like a lot of artists, some of them are into conspiracies and stuff, because you're able to imagine scenarios that are just not based in reality. Not always, but some of them. Alright, so I've done that. I'm going to paint the eyeballs in these heads as well. So that's one of the things that, you gotta, if you understand how your brain works and you're mindful of it and always watching yourself, you can use that to your advantage as an artist, like to understand, like, oh, I'm having an off day today. I'm having a bad day. So, what does that mean? Well, if I have a bad day, I'm an artist, maybe I'm a musician, so I'm going to write a song about it, And that song will have a emotional tone to it that fits how the person feels, you know. So you'll see like a lot of sad love songs and things like that by artists, and they usually write those songs when they're going through a breakup with their boyfriend or girlfriend, or and so they're actually using that emotional state to their advantage. So that's what a lot of artists do, but it requires that you really focus on what you're sort of thinking at the time and how you're feeling, and saying, okay, well, this is a good time for me to express how I feel. And artists don't just express themselves through words; they do it through envisioning paintings and stuff like that. So artists have a sort of different language. It's a visual art. It could be musical art. Yeah, Ron says we're certainly detached from reality by necessity. Yeah. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes if you're an artist and you're a sensitive person, you don't really want to be around other people. You want to sort of be alone and work on sculpting characters like this. It's kind of how it is. And that is what makes an artist happy. Right? It's like, you want to make an artist happy, leave him alone, just give him a box of clay or a pad and some pencils, and leave them alone, right? It's like, go wash the dishes. Nope. I'm busy. I'm smushing some clay around with my fingers. Alright, so this is a bit much clay. I don't really need that much for this kid. So Janet says, my mom says that artists feel everything like if they don't have skin. Yeah, see? So it's not really, it's like, it's not just a cliche, it's really kind of true. Smooth this out here. This will be the kid's body. So this is going to be a front view. I'll do maybe a side view. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to make this kid walk. It might require that I do some sort of replacement walk cycle thing or something. In Momo I could probably use that, but I don't really know what I'm going to do. So I will need to figure that out. And if it's kind of weird, like if you're an artist, sometimes you can figure out solutions to problems, and your brain just kind of comes up with solutions. I mean, is it your brain? Is it you? Is it, it brings up questions of like, do you have free will? Like, where does your brain come up with solutions for stuff? So that's something that an artist would ponder, Going beyond the tangible into, like metaphysical craziness, Like, oh. And when that's expressed, you have a film like Star Wars, and you have the Force and all that kind of thing, right? It's really kind of cool. I mean, it's weird to be a human being. And Ron says, I live through my puppets. Or is it you live through your puppets, or your puppets live through you? It's like, how do you know stop motion isn't like, they're actually telepathically through another dimension wanting to come alive, and they're making you move them or something. So Janet says, this is good to be artist. Is it good to be an artist? Well, I think a better question is, I mean, what is good about art? You know, it's fun to do. Ron Cole says, the world needs artists, they just don't like to pay us. Yeah, I don't know, Janet. I mean, I'm not. I'm definitely not putting down artists. I am an artist, you know, obviously. But is it good? Is it bad? It's only bad if you use art to hurt people, right? I mean, like with anything, if you have a pencil, you could write beautiful poetry with it, or you could stab somebody in the head. You know. Just depends on how you use it, you know. And like I'm using like my artistic abilities here to express a pretty simple concept of just, you know, people getting along together, you know. That's part of the story. It's just like, okay, people have a hard time understanding each other, and you know, it doesn't need to be that way. So it's kind of a, you know, it's not like it's kind of a heavy topic put into a film, but it's done with, you know, with puppets, so it kind of makes it easier to express without being too dramatic and like yeah, dramatic, I think is the probably the best word for it. Like, people don't really like to talk about getting along with others in the world. They just, you know, it's like talking about racism or politics or any of that kind of stuff. Like, people find it uncomfortable. But if you do it in a humorous way, or if you do it with puppets and all, you can sort of get your point across and not turn people off. But you could also use the same your artistic abilities for, you know, maybe bad reasons, like making films that will hurt people and make them believe things that are geared towards hurting others or something like that, or writing poetry that glorifies something that is very negative. You know, just pick whatever topic you would find negative. So is it bad to be an artist? I would say nope, it's not. It's no different than being a scientist, right? You know, you could use your science to help people, or you could use your science to make weapons that kill people, right? That's basically it. Theron says, like everyone else, there are wonderful, nice artists, and some artists are pure rabbit evil. On the latter. Haha. Hardly. You want to know some pure rabbit artists? There are a lot of artists that are out there, especially in the prop making circles, that they get props from people, or like sculptures and things like that, and then they make molds of it and then make their own stuff, right? Sell it. That to me is pretty evil. So I'm not liking these arms. These are too small here. I'm going to redo these. But yeah, I don't know. It's just there are definitely bad artists out there. Like if you don't have any morals and you're just out for money, there's ways to survive, and in a bad way. You know, you can totally just copy people's work and be anonymous on eBay or something. Like get eBay accounts and set that up, and you know, it's just like There are definitely ways to be evil as an artist. It's like taking an entire film or something and saying, "Oh, I made that film." Or I made that prop. That's mine. And selling other people's work for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Never giving them credit. That kind of stuff. I mean, it happens a lot. Believe it or not. Oops. So Ron says, art doesn't make anyone evil, it just enhances the color of it. Yeah. I mean, if that's already in you to be evil, sure. But you can persuade people through art, like, political propaganda and stuff like that. So you can influence people. It's a lot of subliminal stuff that people have done in the past. Oh, these arms are much better. I mean, psychology is really one of the craziest things, If you don't understand psychology, there's no defense against certain forms of art. I think they did this one experiment where they were like trying to show how art can influence people, and they had like this group of people walk down the street to an office where they would meet, and talk about coming up with an artistic idea for like a film poster or something along those lines, right? So they're like, well, let's just brainstorm, and when we're gonna come up with this idea for whatever it is that they were trying to come up with. They're like, yeah, well, we could do this. We could have like an ice cream cone come to life, and then when it comes to life, it can go out and ride a unicorn and fly off into space or something like that. Something ridiculous. And they were like, well, we've just proved that your ideas are really not your own. They're put in there by other people. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And so what they did is when they followed these people into this office in the city, down each of the streets, they had put different posters. And if you took all the posters that they passed, that they just didn't really even look at them, right? All the ideas they came up with were of these posters that they passed in the street. I mean, it was that, the influence of art on the subconscious is actually pretty strong. Most people don't realize that. And it's really fascinating, Alright, so I think this little kid the body is cool. I think that it looks nice, and we got some arms. I like the shapes of these arms as opposed to what I had before, which was pretty crappy. So I think we're good. And so we need like a side view of this as well. Now I'm thinking that his bib is kind of thick. I'm wondering if I should keep it thick because it will read better when it's shrunk down on the screen. Just looking at it here, it looks pretty good, actually. I think that's alright. Now this kid is also he's really young, so I think I'm going to put one small tooth in his mouth. Very small one here. Oops, let me get smaller. So this is what I was saying before. Even though I've sculpted this larger than it's supposed to be, just putting a tooth in his mouth is really difficult. So this Momo program is going to be a real benefit to me because sculpting things this small, like one tooth, to put in there is. If I did blinks, or anything like that. I don't know if I could. It's not sticking because I have paint in there, so it's really difficult to get it to stay in place. I'm gonna have to first remove a little bit of this paint. This. Okay, so back to the tooth. See if I can get this to stick in there. Oh, it's still not sticking. Alright, let's try another piece of clay. And take a little bit of oil as well. I'm going to put some oil on that paint. What the oil will do is it will allow the clay to stick to it more easily, because it should technically chemically melt it just a slight bit and then cause it to adhere. Yeah. Still won't stick. Alright, I'm going to just drop it in there. There we go. Come on, tooth. I want to give it a sharp edge, you know, like a tooth should have, but it's not wanting to stay in place. Okay, I'm just going to have to sculpt it square and then use a different tool to put it in there. So Ron says he votes for the big bib. Okay. Glad you like it. Actually, you know, Ron, by the way, I know you weren't around. There was one character that you wanted me to sculpt or that I designed, and you liked a certain look of the character. And I actually kept the look because you liked it. I'll show that to you in a minute here. Let me just... come on, tooth. Let's get this in there. Alright, I'm officially frustrated with this tooth. There we go. Well, that's close enough. I just fix that upper lip. There we go. So there's the one single tooth in the mouth. Okay. So, where is he here? So if you remember, there's one character that has the crazy Gumby hair. So, there he is. There's his face and everything. He's not put together, so you can't really tell what he looks like, but the hair kind of goes on him like this. So I think he's kind of a cool character. But, yeah, he's got all the different expressions and... So we have Ron to thank for this character, because I was going to change the way he looked, but there he is. It's going to be really cool to animate these. I'm actually excited to photograph them and get them ready for animating in the program. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to sculpt a side body for this little kid. I have an idea of how I can make this character walk, this kid. I'm thinking of when I make a round body. Let's see if I have a pencil or a pen. So his body's round. So if I have a side view, I can have his arm to the side. And then these little triangle shapes I could have sort of on the side. And I could sort of move those as separate elements, around in a circle as he's walking. So kind of like this. I think that's what I'm going to do. So when I make these side bodies, I'm going to probably not attach the legs. I'm going to make them separate. That way I can photograph them and then animate them on top of it. That's okay, Ron. Well, I'm glad that you're back. Glad to see you again. I mean, it's pretty nice to have you around, especially since you're so experienced. I mean, you can answer questions much better than I can, probably. Yeah, I mean, when you're done with your with the John Lemon project, I'd love to see that. Maybe you could post that somewhere, either on one of the stop motion groups in Facebook or wherever you're posting now. I know I've seen you post stuff here and there. So Pen is asking about mold making. What kind of clay should you use when making a head? And what clay should you use when making the mold bed? Well, I think it depends on what your final product is. If you're making a character that is going to end up being in silicone, or if it's foam latex, or if the head will be cast in resin, like if you use clay, it's soft, so you can make a hard mold out of it. But if you make a hard mold and there's undercuts, that would be bad, right? Because it would get stuck. So, but it would be good if it's a foam latex or silicone character, because the mold is rigid, right? And you're putting something soft in there. So it just really depends. Yeah, that's right. Ron Cole has his mold video on making one of his puppets. It's a really good tutorial. I think, what is it, wobbly tripod, that he could Google. I think like wobbly tripod is your, or is Ron Cole your name now on YouTube? Because I see your name is Ron Cole there, but I wasn't sure if I'm pretty sure your channel name is wobbly tripod. Alright, so these legs are really simple here. I'm thinking that, so when the leg comes up, I might photograph these at different angles too. Because when it comes up, it might like come over and down, and back and up. I think that would work. Okay, well, we'll figure it out. Alright, so I have to make a bib. Now, if you recall, the last time that I told you guys about this, I used to think that I would have to make a front, a left, and a right view of all the characters, but I can flip these in Photoshop. So I can make them go in one direction and then flip it, so that will be a lot simpler. So Ron says it's on his YouTube page, and just search for Ron Cole mold making tutorial. Cool. It's also part of our master course as a free video, because it's really super helpful. Let's see here. Clean my fingers first. See, when you work with clay, sometimes the clay will eventually stick to your fingertips. And that's bad, because you don't want to transfer all those colors from one color to the next. So I'm going to try and stick this down. Pretty straightforward. And the cool part is, with this, I can use the arms from the front view on the side view, like that. So no need to make duplicate arms. Alright. So I'm going to go with the thicker bib. I think, like I said before, it'll read better on the camera because I am going to shrink the, the size of this little kid will be what? So if you actually put him on the same level, his head only goes up to where her boobs are. So that's only like an inch tall. So that should be easier to see. So close. Alright, I'm getting excited. Can't wait to start animating. I mean, it's cool to make them in clay, but to bring them to life, that is going to be fun. So I'm going to put a little X here. Put the button. Oops. Yeah, I gotta get rid of that. Let's do that again. Okay. Alright, well that took us 1 hour to make this little kid. And like I say, hopefully with these faces photoshopped onto these heads, everything should come together pretty nicely, I think. And I can always, of course, make more heads if I need to. I can make more facial expressions. Once I set up my table, it's already set up, the clay on glass table. But once I light everything, I want to make sure that I don't move my lights, because I want to make sure that if I had to rephotograph any of this stuff, I have the exact same camera settings every single time, and I have the same lighting so that everything will have an even look in the film. Like I don't want to have one character's head photographed where the lighting is dark and then put in a shot with all the other characters. They stick out like, oh, it doesn't look like they're all in one scene or something. So that's something I had to really document carefully when I do photograph these. But next week, what we're going to do is we're probably going to, like I said, we're going to look at our robot entries for the 5-week challenges, and then we're going to probably work on the tree set. So it'll be the first set that we've worked on, 2.5D set that is, because it's going to be flat. It'll be the first one we've worked on for our live show. So anyways, I want to thank you guys all for stopping by this week. If you have any questions or comments or anything, you can leave them down in the comment section under this video. And we also have links to our webpage and all that kind of good stuff down below as well in the description. All right, catch you guys all next week. See you later.